Alabama's governor has signed the nation's strictest abortion ban into law, though it won't be taking effect anytime soon. The Human Life Protection Act outlaws the procedure except when the mother's life is at risk. There are no exceptions for rape or incest. It also reclassifies abortion as a felony. That means doctors could spend up to 99 years in prison if they don't comply. The Democrats running for president in 2020 have denounced the law.
The precedent is clear, and yet they've decided they're going to take away a woman's basic right to make a decision, and I think it's wrong.
This is the same state and the same kind of people who also stand in the way of what women need in terms of a ban on pre-existing conditions to have access to issues like prenatal care. Like, they need to check their hypocrisy.
Well, this is an outrage, and it's nothing short of an attack on women's basic human rights and civil rights. And it's something that women of America are going to have to fight against with everything they've got.
The middle ground has always been, at least according to the Supreme Court, that no matter what you think the right thing to do in that situation is, we leave that decision to the person facing it. That is the middle ground that most Americans believe in, but that's not what's happening in the South right now.
One of those candidates took it a step further. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand traveled to Georgia today, another state that recently approved a restrictive abortion law. It bans abortions after a doctor can detect a fetal heartbeat. This often happens around 6 weeks before many women even know they're pregnant. To discuss this, let's bring in Greg Bluestein. He's a reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. His recent reporting is titled "A Closer Look: Why Georgia's Anti-Abortion Law is Just the Beginning." And we welcome back Caitlin Huey-Burns, who joins me in New York. She's a CBSN political reporter. Greg, I'd like to begin with you. Governor Kemp said the heartbeat bill is, quote, just the beginning. What did he mean by that?
He meant that he ran on a campaign with conservative vows to not only restrict abortion, but also to pass expansions of gun rights, illegal immigration crackdowns, and a religious liberty legislation. So that he says he's made it very clear that he will pursue conservative legislation like this, and that this is just the beginning.
Greg, I want to read from your article that we mentioned earlier. You say this, that Governor Kemp's ownership over the heartbeat bill, quote, shows that he believes future elections in Georgia will be more about mobilizing the party's base than appealing to the center. Besides for Kemp, do Republicans in Georgia feel this is the best path forward?
I think that's safe to say. The last segment talked about contentious Senate races all over the country that are being closely watched, and includes Senator David Perdue in Georgia, who's up for re-election. And he has been doing the same thing, closely tying himself to President Trump, portraying himself as one of the most loyal conservatives to Donald Trump in the U.S. Senate. And you're going to see him continue to move towards the party's conservative core rather than moving towards the middle.
On the other side of the aisle, we saw Democrats really staking out the issue of health care, Caitlin, during the midterms, and that strategy worked for them. How does abortion look here coming up into 2020 as an issue? Could this issue hurt or help Democrats?
Well, it's really interesting because on the campaign trail, the 2020 campaign trail, the candidates have really been focused on healthcare, the economy, and climate change. After the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh and his confirmation, Democrats really wanted to rally their voters, rally their base around the idea of the Supreme Court and on issues that could come before the Supreme Court. They know that they have to keep up with Republicans who have made this an organizing principle for their party on judges, not only at the Supreme Court level, but at the local level as well, and in these local races where these issues are really being decided here in the hopes of getting to the Supreme Court. Democrats will have to wait and see kind of whether they're able to mobilize voters around this. But I will say that yesterday did seem to be something of a turning point in this campaign, where you saw most candidates come out really forcefully condemning what happened in Alabama, condemning what happened in Georgia, and directing their constituents, really, their supporters, to donate to abortion rights groups. And they've been touting those numbers today, the money raised for that. So it remains to be seen whether this keeps up. But I will say, too, it's been interesting talking to Democratic women, strategists and candidates who have been urging their their male colleagues and candidates to speak up about this as well. And we have heard Cory Booker say, who's also running for president, that this isn't just a women's issue, that men need to speak out about it as well. And they believe it ties into everything from healthcare to economics.
Well, a lot of this debate is centering around a potential Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade. Senator Gillibrand said Thursday she would, quote, codify the law to guarantee a right to an abortion. So when it comes to actual solutions, Caitlin, what is it that we have been seeing in terms of the candidates' actual approach so far?
Yeah, Gillibrand has really been out front on this issue. She is lower in the polls and hasn't gained that much traction in her campaign, but she did launch a campaign really focused on her position as a woman candidate, and really targeting women voters. So she has been out front on this with solutions, but from the statements yesterday that we saw, we didn't really see many propose concrete, tangible steps. A lot of people, again, urging their supporters to donate, and really used the news coming from the states as a way to make people aware, and also to say, look, you need to show up in elections. Elections have consequences, not only at the presidential level, but in local offices as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, is what else they're going to say about it, especially as more states take up similar legislation.
All right, Greg Bluestein and Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you.
Thank you.